Thank you. Okay, first item on the agenda is the confirmation of the agenda, and I guess I should ask Carla if there's any additions or deletions to the agenda before we get too far on here.
No, we're just for the agenda, we're just looking for additional resolution to allow for the exemption to the council and committee procedure bylaw, just to allow for agenda management.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with the agenda as it was circulated? Okay, seeing none. We do have a consent agenda with a number of items there. There's actually 16 all together. Is there anything there that anybody would like some clarification on or want something pulled and dealt with separately? Okay, don't see any hands there, so I would entertain a motion to move and second the consent agenda. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Bell. Any further discussion at all on anything there? Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. The first item then is under reports is our operations manager, and I see Mike is here. So Mike, I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
All right, good evening. This is last month's report for June. Health and safety, all staff are currently following policies and procedures in relation to COVID-19, and everyone is doing well. Roads, as you can see, are all of our completed and ongoing projects. It was a busy month last month, and also the upcoming projects for the next 2 months will be also extremely busy. Our main projects are the Stafford Pit stripping, the Mitchell domestic landfill upgrades, building up the burns for the garbage cell, and we'll be concentrating on getting the laneways in of all the fresh asphalt that we just recently completed on 3 of our rural roads. And we'll be hitting the fresh gravel at the intersections once the weather and we get a little bit of moisture available to us to get those touched up again and get the calcium reactivated on that. Park staff are quite busy. They caught up on their grass cutting. Now they can't keep up with the watering of the plants and the gardens. Tenders, we received 1 tender last week, and that's for the 2020 St. George Connecting Link Intake number 5 project. You have a recommendation report in front of you. We received tenders last week on June 3rd at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They were opened up by Dennis Elliott and myself. We received 2 tenders. We had 5 plan takers. All the documentation and arithmetic checked out and was all in order. You can see the financial implications there. We are on budget. We did not budget for the water main. However, because of the standpipe painting is under budget, we have room in that budget to complete the water main at this time when we're going through Henry Street intersection when we're doing that storm sewer upgrade. So we'll still be within the financial restraints on this year's fiscal budget and not ask for more money. My recommendation for council is to award the contract for the cold planing and paving of St. George Street, which is Highway 23 North, to Omega Contractors in the amount of $823,572.94, and that's including HST.
Any questions for Mike on that? Councillor Trinkowski?
Just 2 things on the St. George Street repaving. Mike, was there any geogrid or anything necessary as it was on Huron Street going to the west?
Yeah, we have in the tender some allotment for base repairs if we can get into any of need for base repairs. Otherwise, we are placing no geogrid down or a fiber mat or a story seal in between the layers. We're not doing that this year.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And the second question, the parapet walls or barrier walls on the Henry Street Bridge, are we planning to apply a sealer there to try and resist the salt penetration?
Yes, we are.
Okay, good, thank you.
The extent of the connecting link work that we're doing, Mike, it goes out as far as Francis Street. It doesn't go past Francis Street, does it?
No, it goes right to the very northern section of the Francis Street intersection. That's when the connecting link then takes over.
Right. Okay, any other questions for Mike on any of that or on his report? Okay, the motion is that we award the cold planing and paving St. George Street Highway 23 connecting link tender to Amiga Contractors in the amount, as Mike said, of $823,572.94, which includes the HST. Mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Rose, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Trinkowski. Any further comments on that? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
The current contract status, Henry Street and Arthur Street reconstruction from last year has been 100% complete. The surface asphalt and all the sodding and all the services have been looked after. The Henry Street Bridge, all the concrete work is actually complete, and they just completed the water main tie-in boring underneath the river. That was completed late last week, and the testing and all that is currently ongoing. And they'll be starting on the culvert or the tunnel, the walking bridge tunnel underneath the bridge, starting late next week or potentially late this week.
Okay, obviously with the weather that we're having, the completion date must be a little sooner than what we anticipated. Have you got any idea when we hope that'll be open?
Right now, currently my schedule shows late September.
Okay, yeah. Initially it was end of October, November, I think.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And I have been asked, and I think I know the answer, but you're the one that will know for sure. They're boring under the river, under Whirl Creek, by the water tower. Is that fiber optic?
Yes, that's Quadro completing their fiber optic run from their station at our standpipe under Whirl Creek to tie into all the works that they completed last week going up Arthur Street and out Ontario Road.
Okay, good. All right, any other questions for Mike? Okay, thank you very much, Mike. Good. Next item is Recreation and Facilities Report. So Darcy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So there's my activity report. We were able to do some virtual programming, which we're really excited about. We're really excited about starting our summer programming this year, but due to COVID, we're unable to do that. So we were able to do some virtual programming as well as the virtual celebration for Canada Day, which all have been a fairly big success. I can't say enough good things about my staff. They've rolled with every punch we've got, and they worked very hard to get the pool open for tomorrow and the splash pad open for tomorrow. So we're excited about that. As well as we did meet with the ice users late last week to start discussing what the ice season's looking like. And there's a lot of unanswered questions. So we said we would meet again in another couple weeks and look at what every user is going to need come September or October. So I'll be able to have some more information in a couple weeks. I'll take any questions.
Councillor Trentowski?
As Darcy, with respect to the ice usage, is it just waiting for Hockey Canada or the OHA or the other ice hockey and ring out authorities to figure out what their plan is before they can relay the plan to the rest of us?
Yeah, so a lot of them have started to come out. Ringat has put out theirs, and it's there'll be no games until January. The Ontario Hockey Federation was a little bit more vague on what they're really looking for, and basically it's no regular 5-on-5 hockey till phase 4, it looks like, but they are open for training sessions and practices. And figure skating's basically said they can go, just no use of the dressing rooms and so forth, and they've got an outline. So what we're working on as staff is to look at all the associations return to play and try to get our own, kind of like the pool, what we want to see in the arena and stuff. But that's going to take a lot of work and a lot of research. So we're working on that. Muted, Dean.
You're muted, Dean.
There we go. As a follow-up, Darcy, that there, I guess there's two sides of it. There's the players and the officials, but then what about the fans? I guess that's another thought process unto itself on how we deal with fans or don't deal with them, as the case may be.
Yeah, a lot of associations are pushing that it's more of a drop off in the parking lot and pick up if they're old enough, or have one parent in the lobby. It's going to be a real hard thing, and even the use of the dressing room is going to be difficult, because a lot of the associations are saying don't use the dressing rooms unless you have to. Show up changed, put on your skates and go. So, and we'll have to see how the phases roll out, getting closer to September and October. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting time for sure.
Okay, other questions for Darcy? Just one off the top of my head here, Darcy. What kind of uptake do we have for the swimming pool and the splash pad?
So the splash pad's not a pre-register, it's a drop-in. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of interest. As we were there today getting it all operating, there's a lot of people stopping by asking if it's open. So I think there's a lot of interest there. The pool registration has been a little slower than we had first imagined, but the afternoon swims are filling up fairly quickly, and I think there'll be a lot of last-minute registrations as people see the weather for the day and make their plans. But we're still waiting to see if the registrations pick up closer to the time.
Okay, good. Thanks, Darcy. Any other questions? All right, very good. Thank you very much, Darcy.
Thank you.
The next item then is Clerk's report and the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario for a license. So Carla, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so in the report, you'll see Black Donnelly Brewing is looking to apply to the AGCO for a by the glass license. So that license allows wineries, breweries, distilleries to sell and serve their products for consumption at their site. So you'll recall back in 2017, council did support a zoning change to this property, as well as our building official has deemed that it's in full compliance with the Ontario Building Code. Right now, staff fully supports this application as it will accomplish the purpose of the zoning for that property. And as I mentioned, it's in full compliance. And as well, it is exciting not just for West Perth, but also for Perth County. Its presence there is a tourism destination draw in itself. So it's exciting. So right now, in order for them to fully apply to the AGCO, they do require a resolution of support from the local municipality.
All right. Any questions for Carla on that information? Okay, seeing none, I do have a recommendation here. It is that the Municipality of West Perth support the application of Black Donnelly's Brewing located within the boundaries of the municipality to sell and serve beer by the glass for consumption on brewery premises. Have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Murray, Councillor Bell, any further discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on, correspondence, and there is a letter there. Carla, I'll let you maybe deal with the correspondence if you wish.
I think Jeff was more heavily involved. I think what this letter here is just more for information than permission.
Right,
Jeff,
well, yeah, I realize that. Jeff, do you want to explain? I know we dealt with it at the county and it's just a kind of a follow-up to satisfy what the province wants. So I'll let Jeff maybe explain it.
Sure, and I would just, I think all we really need to say in this one is that this is a procedure that the RITS was interested in our support for. It's an activity that would be a standard part of our response to an event. So it would be part of our emergency management plan to support them in this event. I understand that the province has insisted that they have alternative plans, so shelter in place is not the only choice they have if they have an outbreak, if we go through another wave. In my opinion, council doesn't have to take any action on this correspondence or pass a motion of support. I believe the support is given through our support of the emergency management plan.
Okay, any questions with regards to that? All right, before we move on to correspondence, and I know that Chief Hunter is on the line here. Bill, would you like an opportunity to talk about what is happening with regards to a burn bylaw?
Sure, I'll bring everybody up to date.
You're muted, Bill.
Oh, sorry. How's that?
No, I have no sound. Oh, what am I doing? Here we go. Sorry.
Is that better? Okay. So tomorrow we're going to be issuing a burn ban all across Perth County. We had discussions today with all the fire chiefs from each municipality. The only thing we're going to permit will be campfires used for the purpose of cooking. So bonfires or any large outdoor burns won't be permitted. And that'll be in place until we get some wet weather.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I didn't intend to throw you under the bus, but I knew you probably wanted to make a comment about that. So this way everybody knows if they get some questions asked.
Yep, there'll be a media release. We're just putting the finishing touches on it, and we will send it out first thing in the morning, and I'll make sure that everybody on council gets a copy of it.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Any questions for Bill? We've done this, I think at least once a year it kind of happens. And I remember last year we had it for a while too. So, okay, bringing us down to council reports. And the first couple of reports are Economic Development Committee minutes from January and also from the agenda, I guess, from the 17th of June. So Doug, I'll let you deal with that if you wish.
We still have our business breakfast planned for November. Out of all of that, if we can, because we like to promote that, I think it's the second or third Wednesday in November. But we haven't really been able to do a lot, as all committees haven't. We had our first Zoom meeting with Jeff, and it was very interesting again. Still looking forward to getting back in the town hall to have meetings where I can actually look at you people. But other than that, unless anybody has any questions. No.
Councillor Kinkowski?
Maybe just a follow-up about the local leaf query that I got in touch with Justin at the county, and he was going to follow up on that. So I don't know if there was any more information needed from our end or anything of that nature, but if there is, I'd be willing to assist in any way.
That was just last week, so I'm sure that he'll look in. We don't actually meet again till September. But if you've contacted him, I saw that email. So I can check with him at county council. We only have, the next one's not till August, I assume, for county councils, but I'll bring it up to him or talk to him. Yeah,
Justin is the economic development manager at the county, and I'm sure that he'll be on top of it and talk to them. And if you had sent him an email, so I'm pretty sure if he has questions, he'll get a hold of you or find out the information that he needs to get to proceed any further on that one. So, anything else about economic development? Okay, moving on then, we got a couple, actually, I guess we got 3 here for Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. First one is source protection, and then there's a couple Maitland Valley meetings, a general meeting. Councillor Matheson, I'll let you highlight some of that if you wish.
Don't really have too much to highlight. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions for Cheryl on that? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on then. Upper Thames River Conservation Area. Councillor Murray.
Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. I don't have anything special to highlight. Staff is working hard to open the parks. Of course, reduced uses. Of course, they're looking at the budget and how that's going forward. We get a pretty good report every month. And other than that, I don't have anything special to share.
Any questions for Anna Marie about Upper Thames? Okay, thank you. West Perth Police Services Board. Steve, do you want to highlight anything there? There's a couple meetings way back in, first one's back in January, and then we had one in June. You're muted, Steve. Okay,
Should be good there.
you're good. Excellent.
Sorry. So for both the meetings, there isn't a whole lot of new earth-shattering things to talk about here. But the January meeting we did discuss that. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one here. My apologies. So I wanted to talk about the more recent meeting in June, and Walter, you yourself attended a meeting with the school board along with Mike Kramer, I believe, to discuss the current bus stop at Frank Street. I don't think anything has been decided on that yet. Every time you have a meeting, we have a new representative on the school board looking after traffic, and right now it's kind of just sitting idle, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And we talked about a little bit about parking bylaw coverage with the OPP. That's about it, really. Nothing too exciting other than that, unless you have something.
Thank
I have
you.
a question.
Oh, sorry, Councillor
It's
Bell.
okay. Just a quick question from Police Services, just as there was another bad accident at the Russelldale corner right recently. Has there been any more discussion amongst OPP about pushing MTO a little bit into looking into that corner a bit more?
Yeah, actually that was brought up at our meeting, and the OPP had just finished a period of time where they were monitoring with a vehicle out there, looking at speed going in and out of the town of Bornholm. And we did talk about how Russelldale was doing much better, and then right after that we had an accident in Russelldale.
I did have a phone call from Scott Bentley today, as a matter of fact, and he indicated they've been spending a fair bit of time out at Russelldale, and certainly on the weekend they had 2 cruisers out there, one watching the stop signs and one watching speeders, and I think it generated a fair bit of revenue, and it's just mind-boggling why people do not stop. But the one thing he did tell me is, of all the tickets they issued, there was none issued to people or who were residents of Perth County. They were all outside of Perth County.
That was gonna be my point, yeah.
The one item that he did say, a lot of it is there'll be cars in groups of say 3. The first one will stop and look, and then it'll proceed. And the other 2 that are behind it just follow along. And that's where the problem occurs. But anyways, they're certainly monitoring that. There was a meeting with the OPP and MTO on Friday, and they discussed Russelldale, but they also discussed the Bornholm intersection and possible things that they could do there to make that intersection better. And so they're planning on doing something, and they want to move on it sooner than later. It's just that with COVID virus and everybody working out of their houses, it's just a little hard to put a timeline on some of this, but they are planning to make some improvements at that intersection. Any other questions with regards to police services? I do think I agree. We've got to kind of pick up on the one with the school board again, or we'll be back to September, and whether there'll be buses or not, that's kind of why it's been just let go, I think, as much as anything, and we've been busy. So we'll get back on that one and get something going there. Deputy Mayor Height.
When we get our new bridge built, a lot of kids will walk across Henry Street, because I think the buses will be discontinued in that northeast corner of town, from what I've heard. Are we going to approach the MTO about putting a push button crossing, or are we going to station a crossing guard there like it used to be?
Who wants to respond to that one? Jeff? Mike. Is Mike on here? Yep, Mike's here. Mike, do you want to answer that one or respond to that one?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay, so as of right now, we are not planning any traffic lights or signals there because we are unable to put them or install them there unless they are warranted. And so that means that there will be no light structures there. However, Police Services Board should be looking at the potential of placing a crossing guard at that location. And that would require us to put the warning lights 250 meters either direction of that intersection.
My question, I guess, Mike, when we're doing that Highway 23 connecting link, can we put in preparation of something maybe down the road, could we put the necessary wiring in there if it ever did happen to require either a crosswalk signal or else a traffic light? You're muted. Oh, I'm muted. Here we go. No? Can you hear him?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we are planning on placing a couple of spare ducts across that Henry Street crossing.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. It'd be a good time to do it so we don't have to cut it up, the road open again later on.
And it's also, we'll be placing those ducts along there too for Quadro or fiber optics or any other of the utilities.
Very good, very good. All right, any other questions with regards to, I guess we're still on police services? Okay, thanks, Mike, for that explanation. What do we got here next? I guess that's it for reports, unless anybody else has anything that they want to bring up. Recommendation here is then that West Perth accepts the reports from staff and councillors as presented, and further that all committee minutes and correspondence not specifically dealt with by resolution be received and filed. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Rose, Councillor Marshall, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you. We have a number of bylaws. Actually, we have one. And it's a bylaw Z234, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 100, 1998 as an amended for property described as part of Park Lot 4, Registered Plan 339 in the Mitchell Ward. And it is, the recommendation is that we give first, second, and third and final reading to bylaw Z234, 2020, the 6th day of July, 2020. And the mayor and clerk are hereby directed to sign and affix the corporate seal, which is the former Duracell property, what we dealt with earlier in the public meeting tonight. Do you have a mover and seconder for that? To give it 3 readings? Councillor Marshall, Councillor Rose, any further questions on this? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Announcements are there. Next meeting is July the 27th. And then of course, August the 3rd is the civic holiday weekend. Any notices of motion? Any other business at this time? Okay. We do have a delegation, and I believe that they're on hand. We have Dave Murray, board chair, and Jeff Renault, administrator from the Ritz Lutheran Villa and the Mitchell Nursing Home, wishing to talk to us with regards to a letter about being a guarantor. So I will invite David, there he is, at this time to come forward and make his pitch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you well. Yes.
Perfect. Well, I'd like to thank you and the councillors for allowing me to make this presentation to you this evening. I think I would like to give you a little bit of an update of where the project stands at this point, so you have some perspective as to our request before you tonight. So we are getting very close indeed. We've been waiting very patiently for the approval from the Ministry of Long-Term Care for the technical drawings that we submitted probably 2 months ago, and they indicated that there's usually a 4-week turnaround time. So our patience is starting to wear thin, but we are in contact with the ministry and our MPP, Randy Pettipies, on a regular basis, trying to get that pushed through. The second other important piece is for us to finalize our financing. And I have in my possession a draft commitment letter from the lender. And there's one piece that they feel is missing, and that we'll deal with our request to you this evening. But before we do that, I just want to say that when we have those 2 pieces completed, then we go to tender and we get a shovel in the ground. And we're hoping to have that done by September the 1st. It's just very important that we get that shovel in the ground as soon as possible, and I'll get to some of the budgetary implications in shortly. I wanted to let you know that on Friday, I received an email from the Ministry of Long-Term Care. It's called the 2025 Long-Term Care License Expiry Survey. And this has been sent out to all long-term care homes whose license will expire in 2025, who are not currently in an active development project. And I'm going to fill that survey out right shortly and say, well, if you would just approve our technical drawings, we would be in an active development project. But because our licenses are for Class C beds, that's no longer going to be allowed. And in light of the COVID pandemic, they're already removing our 3rd and 4th beds out of our ward rooms in Mitchell Nursing Home. So we will only be able to have 2 people in those ward rooms, not 4. So it's so important that we get this project going and get it completed as soon as possible. Just wanted to let you know that our architects are Cornerstone Architects from London, and they have a very good reputation. They've been building long-term care homes for a long time, so they have a lot of experience in that. Our construction management company is Norlawn Construction out of London, and they are also a very reputable and highly experienced company. We feel very confident that we have the right people in place for that. I wanted to touch a little bit on the budget and the evolution of the budget that we've been working with. The first iteration was in March of 2019, and just to make it brief, the total cost per bed, the entire project was just under $183,400. And there was a revised budget in February of this year. And the current budget, which we just approved on Thursday night from June the 1st, is at just under $183,000 per bed. So as we've gone along, the budget has remained very stable. It has not increased. We have a contingency included in the overall budget of just over $700,000, and Norlawn Construction in their construction budget has a contingency of $500,000. So that's $1.2 million of contingency over a total budget, construction budget of just over $18 million. Also in Norlawn's construction budget, they have a contingency of $100,000 for winter construction. So, and chances are that they will use some of that, but if we don't get started until October, November, they'll probably use a lot more of that. So that's why we're really trying to push hard to get the shovel in the ground in September. So this brings me to our request to the West Perth Council, is that our lender is very anxious to support us in this project. They are a little bit nervous about the contingency. I think banks are just nervous, period, but they're worried about the contingency. We feel that we have plenty of contingency embedded in our total budget. Whenever you have a project of this size, there probably will be some of that contingency used, and we're quite aware of that. But our 1.3 million contingency, we feel, is very adequate. They're not thinking that's quite enough, and they're looking for a guarantor for an extra 10% contingency on the construction budget of $18 million. So we're not asking for money or financial support. We've already received a commitment from West Perth Council, which we're very grateful for, but we are asking that you would be our guarantor, and that would turn my draft commitment letter into a full and final commitment letter, and we would have our financing in place, ready to go and to go to tender for the whole project. So just one other point, because we do have the construction budget of 18 million and change. We also have, there are other costs as HST of over $1 million in the budget, of which we will get 85% back because we're a not-for-profit charitable organization. There's an interest reserve of over $1.1 million, and then there are finance fees. So our total project budget is $23,421,000. And the Ministry of Long-Term Care has already signed a development agreement guaranteeing that they will pay us over $981,000 a year to cover the construction costs, and that's over 25 years. So that's $25 million we will be getting from the ministry over 25 years. That will pay the construction costs. What we really need to fundraise for is to be able to cover the interest over the course of the construction, because as soon as we make one draw, we're paying interest on that. So that's where we stand, and I do request that West Perth Council will be our backstop and be the guarantor so that we can get that financing piece in line. I would be open to any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave. Are there anybody here that has some general questions? I realize we're going into closed session right after this to get into maybe the nuts and bolts of it, but does anybody have any general questions at this point in time for David? Okay, seeing none, you did an excellent job, Dave. You convinced everybody here, maybe. Notice I said maybe.
It would be nice if I did, and I will patiently await. I'm assuming that I'll get a request faster than a response faster than I get from the ministry.
Question from Councillor Tinkowski.
I guess I'm curious, David, as far, like you said that the technical drawings were sent for review by the ministry. I guess I was curious to learn the status of site plans and drawings, I guess, with our own chief building official. Is that all in place, ready to go, or where do you stand with that?
Yes, we've received site plan approval from the municipality, which we're also grateful for, and that was a necessary part of getting the drawings approved by the ministry as well.
Okay, good. I do recall we did discuss at the previous meetings. I just wanted to, refresh my memory and just make sure that everything did follow through and to everyone's satisfaction. So that's good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Thank you, Dean. This has nothing to do specifically with your request, Dave, but if you're having to lower the numbers, and I guess I'm thinking of the Mitchell Nursing Home. So have you had to move people out, or do you kind of wait as people leave the facility one way or the other, and you adjust the beds that way? And if that is the case, how do you make up for the extra funding? Obviously, if you had revenue for 4 people in a room and you're dropping down to 2, there's going to be a bit of a shortfall of revenue because of that.
Yes, we're quite concerned about that. So the room, we are not sending any residents out of the home. It's through attrition, and the ministry has already stated that they will pay their portion for those empty beds, and we will not be penalized for occupancy rate. We are required to keep occupancy at over 97% at the homes in order to not have any clawbacks. So that won't be affected. What we're concerned about is the resident portion of the funding, and our advocacy group in Ontario is called Advantage Ontario, and they're trying to work with the ministry because it's going to affect a lot of homes. And just in the Huron-Perth area, it's up to 565 beds that will no longer be available to our community. And so that's quite concerning. And for us, I think the financial implication, if without the resident funding, would be about $13,000 or $14,000 a month. That's not in our budget.
Right. Well, it was feasible to predict that at the first of the year, like it's direct result of circumstances because of the COVID-19. Any other questions for Dave at this time? Oh, sorry, Dave, go ahead.
It might be appropriate just to give a shout out to our management team, our employees, our residents and their families through the last number of months. It has been very heartbreaking to see that they haven't been able to visit, and our team has done an amazing job of trying to keep them connected with their families. And I'd like to thank them via the council meeting tonight, and thank the whole community for their support, because that's been very important to the morale of everyone involved. Thank you.
Good. And I would agree with you, David. It's certainly been a very trying time, and I know several people that have family members in there, and it's been a long few months that they haven't been able to make contact with some of the people that are in there. The other item I just want to mention at this time as well is I think the staff, administration, and the staff themselves at the facilities deserve a lot of credit. We did have, as David has said, Mitchell Nursing Home does have a number of rooms with 4 beds to a room. And the fact that we did not have anybody show up with the COVID-19 virus, I think speaks greatly to the involvement of staff and to keep that out. So I think kudos to them. I think, you're doing a great job. Okay, any other questions for David with regards to the request? Okay, I don't see any, so thank you very much, David. At this time, we are going to go into a closed session to discuss your request. And so the motion that I have here is that the Municipality of West Perth proceeds to a closed session at 7:47 for the purpose of personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Do we have a mover and seconder to go into closed session? Councillor Harold and Councillor Rose. Thank you. All those in favor? We haven't got a motion to go out of closed session yet, but we're live. I moved by business coming out of the closed session meeting, and I do have a resolution here. I will read it, and then I will look for a mover and seconder and discussion if there is anything on that. So the resolution is that the Municipality of West Perth directs staff to prepare a bylaw to enter into an agreement for the Corporation of West Perth to be a guarantor for the loan of $1,814,488 in favor of West Perth Village project. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Tunkowski. Discussion. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, everybody's ready for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you. The next item that we want to deal with is the direction for staff for the tennis courts. There are 3 options listed there that were in our agenda package. And I guess I can go through 3 options, and then if we want a discussion or get it, we should get it on the floor, which option you want. And then if there's any discussion, we can go from there. So the first option was to award the tender to Armstrong Paving in the amount of $276,287.95, including a 10% contingency, but not including the HST. The second option was award the tennis courts to Armstrong Paving with a revised scope of electrical conduit only and 2 lifts of asphalt in the amount of $203,731.12, including a 10% contingency, but excluding HST. And I'll digress. So the first option had everything in it, electrical and the lights, right, Jeff? Yes, so that's complete. The 276, 287 is everything. The last motion, or the last option rather, is award the tender to Armstrong Paving with a revised scope of electrical conduit only and 1 lift of asphalt in the amount of $194,145.50, including 10% contingency, but excluding HST. Maybe before we get a motion, any comments, Darcy, on those options?
Yeah, so obviously the first option is the full tender package option. The second option gives us 2 lifts, which can give them a little bit more of an exact, because they'll get the pavement first, and then they'll be able to work off of that to get the exact grade for the second lift. Where the third is just 1 lift. There's still going to be the engineer's still going to be on site to ensure they hit grade. It's just going to be a little tougher on them to hit grade when they're working off of the gravel. So with talking to MTE, I would advise to go with the 2 lifts of asphalt. I think that's the better option and the most economical. But I think at this point right now, I don't think there's a need for lights. We can always, with doing the conduit only, we can always expand the lights on at a later date, whether it be fundraising or in the municipal budget. But I think for right now, I would recommend the second option to council.
Okay, thank you, Darcy. Appreciate that input. Okay, I would entertain a motion then at this time, and then we'll open it up for further discussion if you wish. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Tunkowski. Discussion?
Maybe Walter, could I
Sorry.
ask what we were actually moving and seconding?
Oh,
What-
option 2. It's
Okay,
option 2.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry. So that is the 203,731, 2 lifts of asphalt. It has the conduit, but no lights. Okay. Comments, questions? Dean?
I guess just further to what Darcy mentioned about the initial construction, it's having 2 lifts of asphalt is helpful that way to achieve the proper grade, but also in the future, Darcy, if you had to resurface the asphalt, you can get a better resurfacing job when there's 2 lifts to work with instead of 1. If you're trying to mill into just 1 lift, you're going to have a greater risk of hitting the gravel. Whereas if you've got 2 lifts, then you got more room there to mill down and resurface.
Good point.
Doug?
I just wanted to confirm with Darcy that when the tennis court's done, there will be pickleball lines on it and tennis court lines on it? A multi-use facility?
Correct.
Just wanted to make sure that we were doing everything best for the community.
Correct. Yep. There will definitely be both sets of lines on the court.
Okay. Thanks, Doug. Anybody else? Okay, no further questions. All right, so option 2 has been duly moved and seconded. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion is carried. Thank you. All right, I have reached the end of the agenda. I had asked earlier if there was any other business, and I'll ask it again right now if anybody has anything else they want to bring up at this time. There is, I'll just mention this, I stumbled across this on the weekend. There is a car, I call it a car show, but there's a car rally going through next Sunday, and it starts in Goderich and goes through to Clinton, over to Exeter, to Russelldale, and through Mitchell to Bornholm, and then up to Winthrop and up through, and eventually it ends up in Goderich again. And I understand they did one, I think, a month or so ago, and I believe there was like 300 or 400 cars in it. It was quite a show. So I just, just as kind of a current events thing that's going to happen. So the fact is that it's going to go through West Perth. So good thing to have. Good thing to have. So my next item on the agenda then is a confirmatory bylaw, and that bylaw number 48 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for West Perth. He read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? How about Councillor Matheson? I don't think I've had her hand up at all tonight. So Councillor Matheson and Councillor Murray. All those in favor? That is carried. And a motion to adjourn. Councillor Bell and Councillor Harold, thank you. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you.